Hey, welcome back to ZK Master Tech. Today we're going to be working on a 9R640, and I've got Mason here with me. He's a John Deere Ag Tech student, and I'm going to test his abilities on diagnosing a steering code in this tractor. So it's setting an XSC code of some sort. I don't remember exactly what the number is, but we're going to get Service Advisor hooked up to this tractor, figure out what code it's setting, verify the concern, and see if we can get this thing diagnosed. Also in this video, I'm going to be answering all the questions that you guys sent me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube. So a lot of questions to answer at the end of this video, so make sure you stick around towards the end because I'm going to answer as many questions as I possibly can. So let's get into it. It's really muddy out here, Mason.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a snack pack?
Yeah.
All right.
So we got our snacks for the day.
So what do we got going on?
We got connected with our EDL.
Oh, you're not connected yet.
Well, not connected yet, but we've got the EDL connected to the tractor.
There you go. Hit the connect button.
And I will connect now.
Can't see nothing. The sun is just a-blazing in this cab. Alright, so I pulled up the codes. ECU shutdown error. That's because someone turned the battery switch off before the DEF pump was done pulling all the DEF out of the lines, you know, reversing it. It's usually whenever that code sets. This is the TCM, not calibrated. We're not worried about that. Here's one, XSC 522387.07. No movement detected from the wheel angle sensor. So I'm guessing the valve was commanded to turn, but it didn't see any motion from the wheel angle sensor, which is just a sensor in the center of the articulation that senses how far we're turning left and right. But there was one more code that the operator called in about that's not in here now. I don't know if it went away or if they cleared it or whatever. So we're going to run this tractor around the lot and just see what comes active. All right, well, one of the operators just showed up and kind of told us what was going on with the tractor. He was saying whenever he was manually steering on turning around on the ends, they're putting on anhydrous with this tractor, that the steering would get really hard and just basically wouldn't steer, and then they could stop, shut off the tractor, let it sit, restart it, and then it'd start working again, and it may or may not act up the rest of the day. So we're gonna start this tractor up, drive it around, and just see if we can actually see what it's doing, get it to act up. Then we're probably gonna start going in and checking the steering pressures and the main pump pressures and everything like that. So let's give this thing a spin. Get the big 13 6-liter fired up. Manually steering. It is hard, like when you go back the other way, like in a tight turn, that turn around, but I try to go back the other way. Man, it is really stiff. See that?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you can barely steer this thing back and forth. Okay. That's cool. This thing stopped here. Just sitting here, steering back and forth. See how hard that is? Feel how hard the steering is, Nathan. See, you can't even turn it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah. That's it, we got a problem. Alright, so what's cool about these new tractors is we can go in and see what the steering pressures are without having to hook up any gauges. So if I go to menu, system, diagnostic center, go to under system diagnostics, go to steering, and then there we go, our main hydraulic pump pressure sensor 1. So at idle, our standby pressure is 430 psi, which is a little high. It's supposed to be like 377, but that's at 100 degrees on our hydraulic temp, so we're a little low. So I got Mason right now hooking up a couple jumper hoses into the SCVs so we can run the jumper hoses and heat this oil up to 100. We need to get the oil temperature up to 100 before we can accurately measure the specification of the pressure here. So alright, so I got the oil up to 104 degrees now. Now you'll notice, see how the pressure went down. So our main hydraulic pump pressure 1, that's what we're looking at, 313 psi. The standby pressure for an ACS machine, so that's active command steering, is 290 to 377, and for auto track is 348 to 464. Alright, so we don't have active command steering, so our pressures, our standby pressure is a little low. If you just have the auto track option, it's supposed to be 348 to 464. So we're a little low there. So let's check the stall pressure. So let's see what it is. So we're just gonna set the engine to low idle. We're still monitoring that pump pressure sensor 1. We're gonna steer all the way to the right as hard as we can, and it's not doing nothing. It's up to 455. We'll give it some RPMs to see what happens. Alright, I'm gonna stall an SCV and you steer.
Alright.
Now try steering. Yeah, that definitely helps it. Just steer all the way to the right and hold. Okay, so I'm gonna let go. Goes back down. Now try to steer to the left. Gets hard again, doesn't it?
Nope.
I'm gonna hit the stall the SCV.
Okay. Oh, yep.
And it takes off again. Okay. Let off. And you lose your steering again, don't you?
Yep.
Okay. Alright, so the next step to properly diagnose this right is we have to make sure that our main pump is even capable of putting out the flow and pressure that we need, right? Well, our pumps don't create pressure, they create flow, right? But we have to monitor our stall pressure on our main pump. So we're going to go back and go into SCV and then go to sensor, and then we're going to look at this pump 1 outlet pressure. So what I'm going to do is, I don't have an SCV or any hoses in SCV 3, so that's going to deadhead that circuit, and we're going to see our stall pressure right here on the pump 1 outlet. So let's see what we got. About 2877. So that's technically in spec. Yeah. Our spec is 2843 to 3045. On the main pump stall, I kind of like to be more towards 3000. So in my opinion, we could probably bump that up, adjust it a little bit, but it's technically in spec, but it's just barely, right? So now we're back at the steering page. So we're going to stall an SCV and turn all the way to the right. All right, turn that wheel, Mason. And see where our pressure is. Hold it. 2649. So it's just barely in spec. Our spec is 2640 to 2780, but we can't even hit that pressure unless an SCV is stalled. So I'll let the SCV go. Now try to turn back the other way.
Yeah,
Hold.
no, deadheaded.
So right there, 485 is the most we can get, and I'll stall the SCV now. And there she goes, and she starts steering again. Alright, you can stop. So the steering only works if an SCV is stalled. Alright, so when we gain the steering back when we stall an SCV, basically that's telling me that we have a steering load sense leak somewhere, right? And the way I explain this to Mason is you have to look at it like this. So with a variable pump that is load sense compensating, that pump only goes to stroke whenever we send it a load sense signal. And depending on how much pressure we put on that load sense line depends on how hard it strokes the pump. Well, when we just, when you look at it, if you have one pump, but say you've got 3 users of that pump, so we've got steering, we've got SCVs, and we've got the suspended front axle that's commanding load sense, that's giving load sense to that pump, right? So if we just did the steering, we noticed that our pressure wasn't that high.
Right.
But whenever we stall an SCV, boom, our pressure comes up. Well, our load sense signal from the SCVs is actually getting to the pump and it's making it stroke, which is what we need in order for the steering to work.
Right.
So what we need to do now is isolate all the different load sense lines going to it. So we're going to have to cap off the rear SCV load sense circuit, and we're going to have to cap off the load sense circuit for the front axle, and then we'll see if we gain our steering or not, because there's check valves in there that keep the load sense signal from the steering bleeding back into the other circuits, right? So if that check valve isn't there, our pressure is obviously going to be low going to the pump. So we have to isolate the circuit to figure out where our load sense signal is leaking. And if I had to guess, it's going to be a stuck D1 load sense shuttle check valve. You want to put money on it?
I think I'm going to agree with you on this one.
So we're going to try to get this thing into the shop here and try to cap off those circuits and see if we can figure out if that makes us, if we cap off these circuits and we gain our steering back, then we know we've got a stuck D1 check valve. So here's the rear SCVs of the tractor. We got the load sense line capped off. It goes right here off the top of the stack. So the load sense from the SCVs is capped off, and I don't know if you probably can't see it from here. This tractor has a Hydra cushion front axle. See how it's got those cylinders on the axle? But up here, on top of this valve, on the very top of the valve, there's a load sense line coming off the valve, and I have that capped and plugged off. Let's give this thing a whirl. Let's go back to steering. Monitor that pressure right there. Hey, look, we got steering. Looky there. It works. All right, so we got the hood up in the service position, and I took the air intake pipe off the engine that swept around through here, because I got to get back to this valve right here. So this valve is your priority valve and your auto track valve for your steering and brakes here. So I got to get to the bottom of it. There's a line going into the bottom of the valve, and it's going to be really hard to reach. I got to reach under here, clear under this valve, take a line off, and I'm going to install an external check valve on that line. So when we cap the SCVs and the axle off and our steering came back, I know that the load sense check valve, the D1 check valve, has failed inside of this valve, and that check valve is internal in that valve and it's non-serviceable. But there's a workaround for that, and I found there's a DTAC solution that tells you to install a check valve in there. And so I just need to take a line off the bottom, install an external check valve, and put it back together, and then my problem should be fixed. So we got to get in there and get that line off there. You can't see it, but it's on the bottom of this valve. It's going to be kind of hard to reach to. So here is the check valve that we're going to install on there. But I'm going to need a chiropractor after I get this done. This is the line, and here's the check valve that I had to put in. And I can just barely get my fingertips in there, reaching clear back behind here, but you can get it in. I am proof of that. So we got the check valve installed. Now we just got to get this intake pipe back in, and then we can start it up. All right, we got everything back together. Now for the moment of truth. See what she does. Hey, look, she steers. One finger. One finger. Let's see what our pressures are. I'm just curious. Steering. Looking good. Well, that's way better. Even our standby pressure is better. Sweet. It's alive. All right, that tractor's fixed. It's good to go. The operator drove it around the lot several times, and it steers like a dream. That was a really good lesson about load sense for you guys, and especially for Mason. Some real world experience on what happens when you have a load sense leak in the system. So really good lesson there. Now we're going to get into the Q&A portion of this video. Thank you to everyone that sent questions to me. I'm a little bit overwhelmed with the amount of questions between Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, but I won't be able to answer all of them in this video, but if you stay tuned to the other videos, I'll try to get your questions answered. So stick around and see if your question gets on the channel. So here we go. This is a YouTube comment, question here from Echo7344. And he says, I'm possibly going to work for a John Deere dealership as a helper or apprentice. What general hand and power tools do you recommend I get? Well, you're going to need pretty much, like a basic hand tool set from 1/4 inch drive all the way through 1/2 inch drive. Gear Wrench makes a really nice, like a master service set that doesn't cost a whole lot of money. It's definitely way cheaper than buying them off a tool truck. And then if that job doesn't work out, those are really good tools to have at your house to work on your vehicles and your mowers and stuff at your house. So it wouldn't really be a loss if you did buy one of those general sets, and then whenever you go to work with another experienced technician, you're going to figure out what stuff you're going to need. And I actually did a video on my Gear Wrench cart, so everything that's in my Gear Wrench service cart would be perfect for an apprentice. So I'll put the video link right up here, and you can check out that service cart. So pretty much everything that's in that service cart would be a really good starter set for someone to get started in a John Deere dealership. So let's go to our next question here. This is from Mitch Hopkins, 1981. How important is service advisor in your job? And do you think it would be worth it for farmers to get it for themselves? Well, first, service advisor is super important in my job. Basically all the diagnostics that I do, I need to be able to, read theory of operation, look at schematics, diagnostic trouble codes, looking up the codes and the flow charts for all those codes. We use it for downloading and installing payloads to controllers. We use it for looking at live data. So I look at live data all the time on machines. So it's, in this day and age with all the electronic controls and all the hydraulics and stuff that we have on these machines, it's pretty important to have a service advisor so I can get that information. I mean, plus look at all the different torque specs that I look up, repair procedures. You know, if you're rebuilding a transmission or engine or whatever it is, you know, you need to have all those specs on how to build that component to spec, right? So I use Service Advisor daily. Would I recommend it to a farmer? It depends on how much work you do yourself. I mean, are you trying to tackle big jobs like pulling transmissions out of tractors and rebuilding them? I mean, if you're doing jobs like that, yeah, I'd probably recommend getting Service Advisor. But if you are just doing general maintenance on your machines, I probably wouldn't worry about it. But maybe you live somewhere remote where you don't have a John Deere dealer close to you where they can get to you in a quickly manner. So I mean, I understand those people that deal with those issues where they can't get a technician there, you know, for a couple days, and you know they got to go. So I mean, for those people, I'd recommend getting it, but you also got to be savvy enough to use it, right? So I mean, we have to take training classes on how to use Service Advisor. So it's pretty user friendly, but it's not something you can just jump into and use it, you know, really easily. So just being able to navigate the program takes a little bit of training to do. So, but if you're willing to do that, more power to you. Thanks for the question. Next question from Clayton Rapper 7249. 3 questions. I'm a young 21-year-old oil tech for a big case IH dealership. Tips and tricks on how to stay motivated on issues that are kicking your butt. What helps you stay motivated on hard issues? So, to stay motivated, I just basically take it one day at a time. I work with some really good people, so we like to have fun. We kid around with each other, you know, keep the atmosphere fun. So, you know, that kind of helps with the motivation. On far as like an issue that's really difficult to diagnose or fix, you just got to take it one step at a time, right? You got to make sure you know your theory, you know how the system works, and use that information to help diagnose the system. And I know there's times where even if you do know how it works and you're still struggling and you're not getting anywhere, I mean, luckily, for me, we have Deere and DTAC to lean on those kind of issues to kind of give you some guidance. But sometimes there are some issues that can take, you know, days or weeks sometimes to figure out. And I don't know, some people are meant to take that kind of pressure and challenge, and some people are not. I guess you got to kind of figure out what kind of person you are and how much grit you have. I don't ever quit. I don't have any quit in me whatsoever. I don't ever give up. There hasn't been an issue that I haven't been able to resolve. You know, sometimes I have to lean on some other people for advice or help or DTAC or whatever, but I don't ever quit. I don't ever give up. And there's never been one issue that I haven't been able to get resolved. So it kind of comes down to what kind of person you are and what kind of work ethic that you have. You got to have a real strong work ethic and not be afraid to work, because you'll want to do the job right and you want to get it done, you know, right the first time, so you don't have to keep, you know, coming back to fix the issue again and again and again. So I think it really just boils down to what kind of person you are and how good a work ethic that you have, and really how much you like your job. I mean, if you really love your job, it's pretty easy to stay motivated, in my opinion. So next question from Clayton is some advice you would give your younger self when you first got into the field service part of your job. Oh boy. I would just tell myself, you know, you're not going to know everything right out of the bat. It's going to take time and years of experience to gain all the knowledge. I'd probably tell myself, you know, you're going to have to spend a lot of money on tools, because you're going to need everything from, I mean, with working on combines and large ag tractors, you need literally just about everything to work on those things. So it's going to cost a lot of money in tools. I guess basically just knowing what was going to get into. in the future would have been nice to know getting into it, because when you first get into it, you really don't understand just how much knowledge that you have to gain and how much tooling that you have to have in order to be successful in this career. You have to be very independent, so you have to be able to fix issues by yourself out in the field with no help. So that requires a lot of knowledge and a lot of tools. And he also says, I'm completely remote, working out of my house. Service truck tips or advice as far as not being overwhelmed during the busy season. Like I said, you just got to take it one day at a time. You know, I'll get in my truck, I'll just find out what all I've got planned for that day. You know, sometimes I only know the first service call that I'm going to, and I don't know the next one, but you know, I just take that first service call and I just completely focus on that. And then once that task is done, then I move on to the next and just focus on that. Then by the end of the day goes by really fast when you're completely focused like that. And I leave all my frustrations at work. I try not to take it home with me. I know sometimes that's hard to do. It's easier said than done, but I try to leave all my frustrations at work, and then I go home and try to spend some time with my family and just kind of relax and spend time with them. I also like to play guitar and drums. I play drums mostly, but I play guitar actually longer than I played drums. I was actually a music instructor. Whenever I was 16, I was teaching guitar and drums at a place called Sound Source Music in Mattoon, Illinois. And I've been playing music basically since I was 10 years old, and I'm 37 years old now. So I like to play music. I play in a praise and worship band at my local church, and I've been in that band for 18 years now. So I really enjoy that. So that's a really good outlet for me. Basically prevents me from getting burnout. You know, just spending time with my family and playing music. And I got a Labrador Retriever, and his name's Toby. He's a big yellow lab, and dogs are really good for the soul. So I think that question really goes to, you know, how do you prevent burnout? So that's how I prevent it. All right, DS Diesel 8667. I'm a truck mechanic and want to start doing more videos, and I feel like mine suck. So my question is, what's your camera setup? How do you set it up and hold it while filming? Also, how do you explain it to a customer when you roll up and they think you're talking to them or yourself? Lastly, any pointers for a guy wanting to learn, teach himself how to work on more ag equipment, Deere stuff? I've built a few steering cylinders, you said in another video, that suck. Snap ring through the line fitting bung. Yeah, those are fun. And they aren't too terrible, but know next to nothing about the inner workings of a combine, hydraulic setups, etc. I know it's a lot, but definitely interesting, and have a few customers who have asked me about working on their Deere stuff. Okay, that was a long question. So camera setup. So I would say about 98% of the time I use a iPhone to video everything, because it can shoot 4K 60 frames per second. I also don't have to worry about the phone overheating or the battery quickly dying like the 4K camera does that I have. And it's super easy to airdrop those videos from my iPhone to my MacBook. And then I use a MacBook Pro, and I use Final Cut Pro editing software. And that is the simple setup for me. I really like Apple products. It just makes it pretty easy to make a good quality video. I use a tripod. If I'm doing like a still shot, I'll use a tripod, and I mounted a piece of metal on top of it, and then I have a phone mount that's magnetic that I can just snap on to that metal plate, and then I can just adjust my phone wherever it needs to be to get that shot. And then also, since all the equipment that I work on is metal, I can take that magnetic mount and mount it somewhere on the machine to get the right shot. And then a lot of the times I'm just holding the phone like this, So whenever you're videoing, you want to make sure you video it in the landscape like this. So your aspect ratio is 16.9 to 1 for YouTube videos. So you don't want a video like this unless you're videoing for Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. You want a video like this, but YouTube, you want your phone like this. So hopefully that answers your question there. How do you explain it to a customer when you roll up and they think you're talking to them or yourself? So most of my customers know me and know that I have a YouTube channel. I don't video anything that I don't have permission to do. So I always, talk to the customer and be like, hey, you mind if we make a YouTube video on this? I always make it a priority to always put the customer first, and I never want the video making process take any extra time. So I'm pretty good on being able to diagnose or repair a system and be able to direct a video in my head all at the same time. So it's just like whenever you walk up to work on something, you kind of think in your head, what you're going to do. I just say it out loud on camera, and it doesn't really take me that much time to just plop up a camera, say a few things, and then start working on it. And then, when I'm working on it, I'm just videoing myself, while working on it. So that doesn't take any extra time. And, I edit all the videos on my own time after work, after hours. So that's all on my own time. I probably spend, I'd say 3 to 4 hours of editing per video that I do. So I've done over 130 videos, so that's a lot of hours of my life that I've dedicated to this YouTube channel. So yeah, most of my customers already know who I am and what I do, and most of the videos that you see are, my really good customers that know me really well, and a lot of them are like family to me. So it's all good and fun. We can do the YouTube videos with them. Pointers for a guy to want to learn and teach himself how to work more on ag Deere stuff. So I guess watch my YouTube videos. I've got a lot of content on working on green iron. So yeah, watch a lot of that stuff. I'm looking at a 95, though this is from John Blosser 2809. I'm looking at a 9520R, 9570R. Both have about 800 hours. If you had a choice, what engine would you rather have, Deere or Cummins? Well, me personally, I would pick the 15-liter Cummins over the 13.5-liter Deere engine that's in the 9520, because there's a lot less issues with fan drives and turbos and EGR coolers, and the 13.5 was really prone for fan drives and injectors and turbos and EGR coolers and exhaust manifold bolts and water pumps, and I feel like the Cummins has a lot less issues. The 15-liter Cummins over the 13.5 has a lot less issues than the 13.5 does. So I would definitely go with the Cummins one, but just know if you do get into any real major repairs on a Cummins, it tends to be a little bit more expensive than the Deere. This is from Blake Dalton 8120. Just curious, are you and the other guys in the shop paid hourly or flat rate? So we are paid hourly here. Back when I worked in the automotive field for 4 years, of course, we were working flat rate. There's really no way to make flat rate work in the ag field, in my opinion. So we are paid hourly here. David S. McKee, what's the length on that 1/4-inch Matco flex head ratchet with the blue handle that you use in the 9620RX water pump repair video? So that is a 9-inch ratchet. Hello from Tanzania. Thank you so much for your videos. Brilliant inspiration. Would like your opinion on how the technology evolution of the ag equipment has impacted technicians, pros and cons. Myself have been a tech for a short while and moved early to the precision ag side. Find my work is never ending, software updates followed by calibrations, etc. Am frustrated by the fact that manufacturers are purposely making products in a manner that's not in the best interest for longevity and ease of maintenance. Your thoughts? Sorry for the long question. Well, thank you for your question. This is WT6615 from Tanzania. So when I first started here about 15 years ago, so the 20 series and the 30 series tractors, 30 series were brand new, but we still had a lot of 20 series out. And coming from the automotive field, the technology in the automotive field was a little bit farther advanced than the ag side was at the time. So whenever I came into it, it was pretty easy for me to learn all the Deere systems and everything, because I was dealing with a lot more advanced systems in automotive at the time. Maybe not hydraulically, but you know, like CAN bus and controllers and electronics and stuff like that. But it's crazy how much the technology has changed from when I first started to where it is now. I mean, the amount of changes that I've seen in 15 years would just blow your mind. So, and I think they have far surpassed the technology in automotive. So it's been really hard to keep up with it sometimes, and I just have to go to training classes and take courses to keep up on all this stuff. And then, you know, I learn a lot hands-on just by diagnosing and working on the systems and reading the theory and everything like that. I think it's impacted the older generation of guys that are, you know, maybe in their 50s or 60s, and they're getting ready to retire. You know, a lot of those guys don't want to work on these new X9 combines and the new 8Rs and 9R tractors, you know, because they just don't like all this new electronic stuff, because it's not what they worked on all these years, you know. So they tend to stick with the older equipment, and that's fine. We got plenty of old stuff for them to work on, so they're just happy working on the old 4430s and 4020s and all that stuff. And so the younger guys like me, and pretty much I only work on newer ag stuff, you know, that pretty much consumes all of my work, working on combines and large ag tractors. So I mean, a 30 series and a 20 series, you know, is starting to get to be an old tractor for me. So yeah, the younger guys tend to work on the newer technology, and the older guys are, you know, some can do it, some are doing great, but you know, some of those guys can struggle. So I feel like that's how it can impact a technician. As far as never-ending software updates, well, I mean, sometimes these combines, you know, could have, you know, 40, 50 controllers, you know, software packages on a machine, and they're constantly sending updates for these things. And yeah, sometimes it can be overwhelming with all the amount of software that you have to do, and updating displays and everything like that. And that's one part of my job that I don't particularly enjoy doing, is software updates, because it's a lot of just clicking a button and sitting there waiting and watching it go. So but it's just part of the job. It's just a small part of the job that is something that I don't really enjoy, is working with software a lot, but it's just kind of part of it, you know. So as the technology goes, you know, you have all these electronics and everything, and when you replace a component, sometimes you got to do a calibration on it in order to get it to function properly. And it's just, I don't know, I guess it's just something that I'm just used to doing, and I don't really think about it much anymore. So I just I live in the world of all the new equipment, so I guess I'm just kind of used to it by now. JD 6930 Dream. Do you think the Snap-on Tech Wrench, I think he means the Tech Angle torque wrench, is worth over the click type? Well, it's more of a necessity for me to have the Tech Angle wrench, because I do a lot of torque to yield stuff. So you'll torque a bolt to 50 foot-pounds, and you have to turn it, you know, 90 degrees. So I use the angle on the torque wrenches for all that. I have both. I have both the Tech Angle and the click types. Click types are really good for, you know, you just have to torque something down to 35 or whatever it is and just click it and you're done. But if I was like starting out in this career, I would probably spend the money on the Tech Angles, because then you're going to be able to do everything that you need to do. If you went and bought the click types, then you're going to be limited on what you could do. So I would say it's definitely worth it. This one's from Steve Nickerson. My question is how you got started with your current company and more about the company. Thanks, the Ohio farm boy, Steve. Well, Steve, back in 2010, the automotive field wasn't doing very good, and I was working flat rate. So if you're not very busy, you kind of have a hard time paying your bills because you're only getting paid for the hours that you're billing out, right? So if you show up to work and there's only an hour worth of work to do for the whole day, you're only getting paid an hour for that day, you know, it's kind of hard to pay your bills when that happens. So I decided to move to Sloan's and start working for them. And I had my buddy Caleb that I grew up with, my best friend. He worked at Sloan's, and he was the one that told me to come get a job for Sloan's and start working there. So I started, and been here ever since, and I love it. So if anybody is thinking about going from the automotive to the ag side, you know, I'm a living example that that's possible to do. So more about the company. So Sloan Implement it was established in 1931, so they've been around a long time. They're one of the largest John Deere dealerships, and they have 26 dealerships now. So very large dealer in Central Illinois, Wisconsin, and then now there's one in Indiana now too. So 3 states. So a very large dealership. All right, here's a question from Hunter Force 04. What is your favorite thing about working with John Deere? My favorite thing about working with John Deere is working with all the cool customers that we get to work with. I mean, I love being able to go to a customer's farm and you're working in their shop with them, and it's just like hanging out with your buddies, working in the garage on a cool hot rod over the weekend. And you know, it's that same vibe, and it's really fun to work with a lot of the customers we do. So I think that's my favorite part about working with John Deere is the customers and building relationships with them. So I really enjoy that. And I also really enjoy being able to listen to music while I work, and being able to basically work side by side with some of my best friends. So that's something that I really enjoy with working with John Deere. Here's a good question from Ethan Volson. What do your managers think of the videos? Do they think it's a good idea for recruiting new techs, or do they see it as a roadblock to your work in the shop in the field? So all my managers really support me and my YouTube channel, my videos, because it is a very good recruiting tool to show the world what we do behind the scenes to keep farmers running. And plus, I like to be able to inspire the next generation to pick up a wrench, because a lot of communities are taking away the ag programs or automotive programs, or you know, the shop classes and stuff that inspire kids to want to be able to get into a field like this. So I felt like it was my responsibility to give back to the community and get kids interested in turning a wrench. So it was one of the main reasons why I started this YouTube channel, so I could get kids wanting to become John Deere technicians. And it's a really good recruiting tool for us to show what we do on a daily basis and what kind of work that we do. And the managers really like that. And also, I don't let it take any extra time as much as I possibly can. So, I mean, if I was doing these videos and I wasn't making, basically if I wasn't being efficient on the job, they probably wouldn't like it very much. So my numbers stay at the very top, and I do very well, and I'm very efficient with what I do. So, you know, they see that it doesn't really slow me down that much, so they don't have a problem with it. So they're very supportive of me and the YouTube channel. Well, okay, those were some really good questions. I'm sorry if I missed your question. I wasn't able to get to it in this video. I'm going to try to answer those other questions on my future videos, so you'll have to watch my future videos and stick around towards the end to get those answers that you guys are seeking. But I really appreciate everybody taking the time to ask me questions, and I really enjoy being able to interact with you guys more and being able to tell you a little bit more about me and myself and my job and everything, because I really love this job and I love sharing it with all you guys. So I really appreciate that. And like this video, comment below. You can still ask me a question and I'll try to get those questions answered for you guys. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel, because I'm going to be coming out with more videos in the future and you don't want to miss any updates that I put out. And until next time, keep that green iron moving.